Let's take a look at the tasks functionality in JobPro. While we're on the home screen, if we want to have a quick look at tasks using the quick view functionality, we click on the arrow under the tasks module and we can see any tasks that are outstanding or have yet to be done, where we can also filter out by ourselves or other users as well. If you've got the access privilege to change this, then you can actually look at other users' tasks. Now we can also look at the dashboard as well, where it shows any outstanding tasks, and again you can filter out by your own name here. But let's now go into the full tasks module. So there's various places in the system that can create a task. Like for example, you could be doing a sales inquiry, and on the tasks tab you can create a task relating to that inquiry, or you could create a task from a company record or a contact record, or for various other places, including the jobs module especially, where you can break down jobs into stages and tasks. But let's just go back into tasks, and from here we'll create a new blank record. We can link it then. It defaults to the actual contact that's logged in, but you can also change or add other contacts relating to this task as well. For example, it could be a meeting. And we can set the task type. So you can set your own task types in setup. And let's put in a start date of tomorrow and a start time of 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and we set the priority to medium. So there's other information over here on the task screen, like if you'd created a task from a customer screen or a contact screen, or linked to a job or linked to a job stage, well then the information relevant will show in here, where you can click on the link to bring you to that relevant place in the system. Then in this section we can put in lots of task details, put in like a timestamp as well. And then over on the right hand side we can specify multiple contacts, we can email those contacts, view the contacts from here, and flag which is the main contact for this task. We can also set up alerts, so you could have multiple alerts for one contact or for all contacts as well. So we can say remind 1 minute or hour or day before the start of that task. Now the alerts functionality uses the alerts window, which is available from every screen, where you can see the alerts button down the bottom, and it shows you also how many alerts you have currently on red. So if you get a new alert, there are preferences in setup and also at the user level that you can specify to, first of all, to give a pop-up warning to say you have a new alert. You can turn that option on or off, but you can also specify to also bring the alerts window to front. So here we're looking at an alerts window with some sample alerts in it and messages. So the alerts functionality, which is covered in a separate video tutorial, also is not only for just reminding about tasks, but also if any internal JobPro user sends you messages, then you will get them in here as well, and you can click on a message or an alert to view that. Okay, so if you've got the preference to bring the alerts dialog box to front, well then you'll see this window here. You can also position this window, especially if you've got a larger window, you could position the alerts window over to the right hand side of the JobPro window, and then every time you log in it'll position the alerts window in that area, so that, in other words, you can always see the main JobPro window and the alerts window side by side and not one behind the other. From the alerts window you can also turn on and off the actual checking of alerts. So let's just hide that. So on the right hand side of the task screen, we've got time log related information. So here we've got the budgeted time, the total time, and billable time. So these times are coming from time logs entered by employees. So in this case, if we were to log a time log against this task, we'd see the total time appear, whether it's billable or not, and what's non-billable element of that time. And we can specify to reduce the budget from billable time only. So let's say this is a task that's relating to a job, where you've got a budget of how much time you can spend on that task for that job. Well, then this functionality over here is very useful. You can also warn the user X amount of hours before the budgeted time has been used up. So this isn't necessarily relevant to something like a meeting, but it will be very relevant to work that you're doing on a job. And we can also specify the estimated time remaining. So let's, for example, just change this task here to be something that's linked to a job. So we click on the icon and we'll link this to a specific job. And here we can see that the budgeted time is 6 hours. And let's go and log some time against that task. So we'll create, let's view today's date. Okay, so what we'll do here then is create a new time log and link it to the task. And we'll specify, instead of putting in a start time and an end time, what we can do is just put in an enter time of, say, 3 hours. And we can put in some comments relating to that time log. So if we go back into tasks then, we can see that the total time logged against this task is 3 hours. It's billable as well. And we can view any time logs by clicking on the little link beside the actual hours here. And there's no non-billable hours logged against this task yet. So we've still got 3 hours remaining on that task. And we can specify to warn X amount of hours before the budget has been reached. So if a time log user is logging time linked to that task and it reaches the budget, well then they'll get a warning. Now you can also specify in setup, under the time log related setup area, that you can also email specific contacts when a time log has been reached, or should I say a budgeted time has been reached for a task. And also you have the same functionality for jobs as well. So let's say for a larger task, that's spanning a number of hours or days, we could say that there's estimated time remaining is, we feel that there's 4 hours remaining, and that's given us then a -1 of a projected difference. So this functionality is very useful if you're tracking tasks, especially against jobs, where you need to make sure that you're keeping within the budgeted time for that task and the jobs. The next tab in the task screen is resources. So in here, we're looking at the same contacts that are linked to this task, but we can also add, besides multiple contacts, resources can also be assets or any type of item or equipment that you might want to use for a task or for a job, for example. But also they can be internal assets that you might want to rent out as well. So you can use the resources functionality in tasks, and the jobs module, there's identical functionality from a point of view of rental related jobs and tasks. So if we were to add an asset, say something that we need to use on the actual job, we can add the item in here, and we can see here that there's a clash. So there's a problem with this person as being linked to this task, but they're also linked to a job for the same day. So that might need to be rectified so that we don't double book somebody. Now on creating this task, if we had actually put in the start and finish date and times first and then added the resources, what happens then is only relevant resources or employees that are available for this specific day and time will be displayed in the actual screen here. So it's not as easy then to double book if you put in the time and dates for the task before you actually add the resources. So if we clear those filters, we then can see who is available. But when we filter out by the available dates, it only displays who actually is available during that time. So if we select someone here, we're going to see that there is actually a clash with that person as well. And if we hover over, we can see that they're linked to a job for that specific date as well. We can specify the purpose, especially for equipment. That's useful as well. But also we can add locations as a resource to a task. Now a location could be something like a meeting room or an office that you use or rent out. So it could be basically anything that you want to set up in the locations module. So let's add a location in here and we'll say training room 1. And for anything that's tracked by serial number like an asset, you can see the item here. And you can also go and view the item or the contact or the actual location, in this case the training room, by clicking on the arrow to view those areas. So if we were to click on this, then we're now in the locations module, where on the bookings tab we can see any previous resource bookings. In this case we've got a task that we just came from here. And to go back to that task, we can click on the arrow beside the task reference number. So with this task being linked to a job, and we've added on resources to that task, those resources also appear if we view the job screen. So let's click on the job link here, brings us straight into that job. And if we look at the resources tab, we can see that these items have come from a task. We can also add resources directly on the jobs tab as well. So from a job, you can invoice out for billable items, including any resource items. Items that you might be renting out, like a training room or equipment, or the use of people as well. So that's all covered in separate video tutorials on the jobs module. So let's go back into tasks. So if you've added a lot of resources on a task, you can also filter out by the resource type. The next tab in tasks is for expenses. So here we can log as many expenses relating to this task as you like. And if an item is actually a product that you track in stock, well then that will get reduced from stock as well. So it's telling us that there's no stock available for that item. Okay, so we can put basically anything in here. Services, costs, or just miscellaneous items that you can put in a description yourself for. And all of these areas will filter back into the job because this task is linked to a job. So for example, if we were to look at the job again, and if we go to the cost tab, we can see various expenses for this item, and we can see that 2 of them have come from a job or a task here, and there was also another one on a separate task that's linked to this job. And you can invoice out using expenses as well that are linked to the job. We can also print expenses relating to a task from here as well. So the Documents tab is where you can link any type of a document to a task. And you have the option of linking to an existing document that already has been linked into the system in the Documents module, or a new document that might exist on your computer. So if you select a new document, it'll create a new document record, link it to the task, and it'll store that document on your server if you're using JobPro hosted using FileMaker Server, or if you're just using it on your own computer, then it'll store that document into a specific location in the JobPro folder on your own computer. So let's pick an existing document here, and we just pick a PDF, for example. So if we look at that document, then we can see that this document in the Documents module has been used on a task that we just came from, and also it's used on a job, it was used on an email as an attachment, and it's also linked to a company and a contact as well. So the full functionality in relation to documents is covered in a separate video tutorial on documents. So back in the Tasks module, on the other tab we've got some additional fields like the custom fields, where you can specify and set up what you call custom 1, 2 and 3 fields, and also we've got external calendar related fields. So if you wanted to link in your Tasks module into areas like Outlook for Mac and Windows, or Entourage or iCal, for example, those are areas that we can do using plugins, and these fields would then be used for that interaction. Also, something worth noting is that if you've got resources booked on a task and you set the busy status free, well then that means that it doesn't include those resource bookings from a point of view of checking for any clashes with other bookings for those items like people, assets and locations potentially booked in on other tasks or jobs. So also in the Task module you've got a list screen where you can search, view, sort on a found set of records in here. And then you've got an options screen where there's lots of different options for finding tasks, also duplicating tasks. Now in the Jobs module you have the ability to create a duplicate job, and you have a preference in setup to specify that when you duplicate a job that it also duplicates related stages and tasks. So if you set up a job, for example template jobs that you have different stages or tasks on, then those tasks will get duplicated using that function. And this is a similar function when you can just duplicate an existing task directly in the Task module. So you also have an option there for the found set of records to print a list which includes the company and job details. So that's useful if you want to pull up a found set of tasks maybe relating to a job that you need to work on and then print off that list. You can print a mini list which is like a small report with small text on it, and also you can print a task month Gantt list. So this is useful if you color code task types, which you can do in setup. Then you can print off what's called a Gantt list that shows you across the screen where those tasks hit on every day of the month, and they're color coded as well. So it gives you a good visual view of where the found set of tasks you're currently looking at will hit in that month. So there are separate video tutorials relating to the Gantt functionality both in the Tasks module and in the Jobs module, and they'll show you how to set up your different colors for your task types. So when you assign then a task type to your tasks, then that dictates what color will appear in the actual Gantt monthly report. But also, if we have a look at the list screen, there are different types of list screens in here. The standard list screen has sort of standard task related information on it. The job list screen has got more job focused information on it, again based on your found set of tasks. And the Gantt list screen is a screen that will show on the right hand side for the found set of tasks the color or Gantt type object that you can then extend or move. So if you want to then change the duration of a task or position it on a different day, you've got that functionality on a Gantt list screen. So let's say we click on this item here, we can move it to a different day. So that task now is going to be on the 2nd, which is a Monday. Or if we want to span that task to 2 days, we can just extend it like that. Or you can also double click on a actual timeline as well and change the start dates from here. You can also specify how many days you'd like to view in this area here. So you could change that, for example, to 30 days. If you've got a larger window, you can make that bigger. And you can set the start date as well to start on a specific day. Or start on today's date alternatively. So back in the Options tab, we've also got various reporting options, like report by responsible for the current found set, by job and stage, by job and responsible. So what you would do basically is you'd pull up a found set of tasks, and that found set could be related to anything. It could be tasks relating to a job, or they could be for tasks relating to all employees for this week, for example. So you have lots of ways of pulling up a found set of tasks, and you do that on the entry screen. So then you come in here and you'd create your report based on that found set. We've also got similar summary reports for the current found set, again by responsible and job stage, job responsible. And also there's a budget time report as well. So that's useful, again, for the found set, if you've been specifying the budget times that you have, and then you can pull up a report that will show the budget, the actual, and the difference as well. The actual times obviously coming from time logs. And then we also have an expense report. So in here we get an expense screen where we can specify the criteria that we want to include for this report. In this case, we can specify even task numbers so that any expenses relating to a task will appear on the report, but we can use other criteria to say what expenses we want to include on this report. The expenses functionality is available in the task module, like we've seen on the expenses tab, but it's also available in the job screen, in the time log screen, and also at a contact level where you can incur and log expenses as employees as well. So a lot of the time tasks are generated from other parts of the system. Like we've seen, for example, on a sales inquiry where you might want to create tasks as a reminder to follow up on an inquiry. Or alternatively, on a company or a customer screen, even a supplier screen like here, you can create tasks relating to this company. The same with contacts, where you can, if you were looking at, for example, a customer that might be an individual, you can create tasks relating to that customer. And also in the jobs module, where you can break down a job into both stages and tasks. So we can see here for this job, we've got 2 tasks relating to it. And it'll also show you the budgeted time for those tasks, the actual time, and the balance. And if we do a search and pull up, say, a job that's got some stages, just to get an example, if we then look at a stage where the stage has got tasks linked to it, we can also see for those tasks the budget, actual, and balance remaining for the time related area of those tasks. So the tasks module is fitted in with lots of other modules in the system. But you can also use it in isolation just to create general tasks like maybe doing the month accounts, for example, or any other areas that you need reminders of. And finally, if we take a quick look at the calendar, in the calendar we can look at areas like resources, jobs, stages, but we also have a tab for tasks. So in here, if we're looking at a day view, we can see then for a particular person, or we can filter out by all employees if we have the access privilege to do that. We can then move around tasks on the screen, change the duration, or double click on a task to bring us straight into the task module. We can create all day tasks from here as well. But also on the week view, this is a very useful screen in the calendar for tasks where you can see and you can change based on how many days you'd like to see across the screen. So it's not just a week view as such, but you could have, for example, 30 days here. And even on this small screen, we can see all the days, but usually you'd put something like that on a larger screen where you're going to set it to a lot of days. And on this screen, we can then also move around tasks. In this case, this task here is linked to a job, and by double clicking on it, it brings us into the task. We can also create tasks directly from the calendar screen as well. So let's say we want to create a task on Friday the 29th for an hour starting at 10:30. So then we'll double click on that and it'll bring us straight into the task where we can then add further information in, and it's already entered in the start dates and times as well. So that covers the tasks functionality in JobPro.